You're listening to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast, a place for sex addicts to share their experiences of recovery, to help break the stigma, myths, and misconceptions of sex addiction. This podcast may contain topics of sexuality, sexual trauma, dysfunction, or other things that may be triggering, so listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. My name is Jason, I'm a sex addict, and I am your podcast host. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 185 of the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. So, it has been a month since I've done an episode of the podcast, and I'm happy to be back. I originally meant to take just a few weeks off before the Bay Area retreat and ended up taking a whole month. I remember at last year's retreat, I was feeling quite overwhelmed. I had a fantastic time, but just a lot of stuff to do. Not only was I on the planning committee, but I also was doing a workshop and trying to get all of our GSRs together for an area assembly. In addition to that, I was also doing the podcast and other intergroup work, and it was just too much. And so this year I made the decision to step away from working on the podcast for a little while so I can concentrate on the things that I needed to do for the retreat committee. I had such a fun time at this year's retreat, and we'll be talking about that on a future episode. But this one, I wanted to talk about the things that I have been doing in the past month and the importance of stepping away, slowing down when feeling overwhelmed. Back in the early days of the podcast, I believe it was on episode 15, I did an episode called Feeling Overwhelmed. And for the readings this week, I picked out the same reading that I did for that episode plus another one. So the one that I did read on that episode was from Voices of Recovery, July 20th. And it starts off, when we sense what God would have us do, we also ask for the power to carry that out. Sex Addicts Anonymous, page 58. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's usually because I'm doing things on my own. Old habits of trying to measure up or to prove that I'm of value through my actions may be surfacing. Or I may be so excited about giving 12-step service that I can take on more than I can handle. Sometimes I allow schedule changes to get in the way of practices like prayer and meditation that keep me connected with my higher power. I've heard that recovery has a shelf life of about 24 hours, and it has proven true for me. If I get lax with my daily conscious contact, the connection wavers, and I start feeling confused, fearful, unsteady, or irritable. There are times, though, when I have been consistently spending time with God that I still feel like life is too much for me to handle. When this happens, I'm probably doing my best to know God's will and to carry it out, but forgetting to pray for the power to do it. My experience has been that when I've thought to ask for strength, wisdom, and ability, I have been able to accomplish much more than I ever could have alone. God has helped me prioritize and manage my time. I've been able to remember things. Doors have opened. Supporting friends have appeared. Miracles great and small have happened. And I trust it will continue if I remember to ask. In the meditation, may I remember to look to the source of power today and ask for help. Love that reading. And so, yes, I have been feeling overwhelmed. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was slowing down, taking things little by little. And for Answers in the Heart, February 19th, the reading here was on slowing down. And it starts off with a quote from Glenn Ford. If they try to rush me, I always say, I've only got one other speed, and it's slower. We tend to feel ourselves under pressure to perform, to produce, to excel. But pressure makes us feel rushed, and we become careless with ourselves and with others. We miss seeing and enjoying small, simple things in life. We get things and people out of focus. Pressure can come from inside, too, from our shame and sense of unworthiness. Then we find it difficult to look the world in the eye because of our secretive sexual lives. We may feel we have to keep moving in order to prevent ourselves from assessing the true nature of our addiction and the harm it did to ourselves and others. But now we know we can slow down and take each day, each hour, each minute as it comes. By slowing down, we learn to see the world more clearly and enjoy the company of others. We do have time to get to know ourselves and reach out to others. The reward is a deeper, quieter, lovelier life. And the meditation for this: time is not an enemy to be conquered, but part of the rhythm of life. Each day I try to slow down and live. And so it's with these two readings, feeling overwhelmed and taking the time to slow down, that has really helped me out over the past month. Like I mentioned, I really enjoyed being at the retreat, got a lot out of it. I did do a lot there, but I was able to stay focused. And I love in that reading, it's all about the 11th step, creating that conscious contact with my higher power, finding out my higher power's will for me, and asking for the power to carry that out. When I was originally planning to do this episode, it was going to be a few days before the retreat that I was going to post it, and it was all about taking a hiatus. There have been some songs that I wanted to play from one of my favorite bands, Hai Lung, and they have taken a hiatus and has allowed them to do lots of other things. So I was hoping to focus on that, just post those songs and put that out as an episode. And then I realized I was kind of doing the same thing by taking a hiatus, allowing me to grow in different areas and do the things that I have been neglecting to do. One of the things that I started doing was reorganizing all the files on my computer. I noticed for the retreat committee that I had some files over here, some files on email, some files on my external drive, and it was really hard to find the things that I was looking for. And so I made an effort to reorganize a lot of my files, and then I started looking at some of the other stuff that I have for the podcast. I've got links here, I've got episodes here, I've got sound bit recordings here, and they were all organized for the podcast, but I had 3 or 4 different areas with podcast files. And so I was able to combine everything and get rid of some duplicates. In doing so, I found all the bumper files, found my original recordings that I did way back when, and then the files that I have been using as the opener and closer for the podcast, and then the bumper music in between. I remembered talking about wanting to re-record those with the new mic setup that I have, as well as using some of the other editing tools that I have at my disposal now that I didn't have at the beginning of the podcast. And so I wanted to re-record the intro and outro and then modify the bumper music. It's a quick and easy job. And as I was going through a lot of my old files, I saw a lot of documents that had information about the podcast website that I've been trying to launch for 5 years. So sexaddictsrecoverypod.com has been a project that my wife and I were working on together. And so we both have issues, whether it's ADHD or hyperfocus or whatever. We had a hard time getting everything together and to launch the full website. So we've always had a coming soon splash page that had the links for the podcast. Meanwhile, we had written a lot of different things for the about section, the contacts, and a few other things, and we just never got it together. One of the WordPress themes that we were using wasn't working well, and it started to lead to a lot of frustrations, and that project just went off to the side. Late last year, I talked to our intergroup, and I got the approval to buy a new WordPress theme specifically designed for podcasts. I was hoping to get started on that last fall when I was off work for my hip surgery, and that wasn't much of a hiatus and proactive working on other projects as I thought it would be. It was a lot that had to do with healing and physical therapy and trying to get healthy. And so I was not able to work on a lot of the projects. But as I've been going through all of my files on my computer and reorganizing it, it re-energized me to buy the podcast theme for our WordPress site. And over the past couple of weeks, I have been working on that. Little by little over the past week or so, I've gotten most of it together and was almost able to launch it. Then I realized that I had messed up the entire homepage and had to redo it from scratch. But I am so happy to announce that sexaddictsrecoverypod.com is now an active website that has all of our episodes. When I did a soft launch earlier this week, I noticed there was some glitch with the software. I've been able to work out a lot of the kinks, but it does have all of our episodes. I've been able to create music playlists on Apple and Spotify that have links to the full playlist. So when you listen to the music on the website, it's only like minute and a half samples of each of the songs. I think Spotify allows for about 100 songs and Apple's got about like 70 songs. But listening to it on the player on the website, just like I said, only gives about like a minute and a half sample, but each one has a link to the full playlist, and something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've also been able to break down episodes by category. I've been talking about this for a long time too. I've been keeping a list of all of our first step episodes, as well as the SAA and COSA speaker meeting episodes, and the Joe and Charlie episodes. And so I've had them as lists, but now for each of those episodes, I was able to subcategorize it into a new category. And now there is a page on the website that will allow you to click on the category and see all the episodes. Music and recovery was another one. And I think the last one that I just finished was traditions, service, and workshops. And I may put together another few groupings, but those are kind of the basic ones that I have now. But what's really cool with the website is each episode gets its own page. There is a search function. I'm loading tags into each of the episodes, so that is something that will take some time, but I'm working on it. One of the glitches that I did find was the template for the theme in loading all of the episodes overloaded the system. And this is what ended up leading to the error on my homepage that was just unrecoverable. My wife is really good with WordPress. She couldn't figure it out, and so I had to start from scratch. But anyway, right now, the way it's set, I can only load 159 episodes. And so I'm probably going to be creating an extra playlist to get the first like 50 episodes. So there'll be a space to see all of those episodes together. You can always search for episode 1 or episode 43 or whatever in the search bar, and that'll pull it right up. But otherwise, it is a list of about, I think, 16 per page, and you can go to the next page and see all of the episodes. So yes, in this time off, it sounds like busy work, but for me, this was learning something new. I had been relying on my wife to put stuff together, and the work that I do for the Bay Area SAA.org website, I've got limited knowledge of WordPress, but I was able to study and learn new things in this time off, and it was fantastic. And I'm really super proud of the website, the way it's come out. And I'm continuing to learn each day, trying to add some functionality or maybe change some colors around. But yeah, I would not have been able to do this while I was actively editing and posting episodes. And so grateful for the time off. And like I had mentioned with the retreat, not running a workshop this year allowed me to kind of pull back and focus on lots of other aspects of things at the retreat. So anyway, the theme of this episode is when feeling overwhelmed, giving that permission to slow down and take things little by little and enjoy the things that are right in front of us in the present. So I'd mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this was all really inspired from Heilung taking a year and a half off of touring. As sad as it's been for me not being able to see them live, their last handful of shows were in Europe. But taking that time off for them, each of the band members has been able to work on their own projects. And so some of the music here that I want to play for this episode ties into the various projects. I had mentioned on episode 184 that Kai from Heilung has started doing a video podcast, and so I'll be playing some clips of that. Maria has been recording with the band Songleiker and playing a few performances, and so I wanted to share a song from them. And then some of the other band members have had other various side projects, and I'll be playing clips of those as well. So for anyone new to the podcast, I do play a lot of music that is part of my recovery journey. While working on step 2, I had a difficult time with trying to define what my higher power was. And the two things that I wrote down were nature and music. And those are my ways of connecting with a power greater than myself. And the band that I'm talking about, Heilung, really went viral with their Lifa ritual, which was recorded live in 2017 during the pandemic. I did see a few videos of theirs, but I was really obsessed with Tool's new release at the time, Tool being my other favorite band, and so I didn't pay them much attention. And as I was recording early episodes of the podcast in 2021, I rediscovered some of their music and just absolutely fell in love. I played the song Noropu on episode 25, and by the time I got to recording episode 30, which was with David from Long Beach, he had mentioned that he and his wife were huge Heilung fans, and so we had this conversation about a few different songs. I believe they were Filia Iyar and Alfather Haiti. I have since pulled episode 30 from the public at the request of David, but I do have a private link on Dropbox if anyone wants to hear that episode. I did re-release the episode with the intro and outro and just cutting out David's part. I put that out as a bonus episode, and so the songs that I had just mentioned were on that bonus episode. So getting back to what I wanted to share here was Kai from Heilung has started doing this video podcast, and his first one was on the song Alfather Haiti, which is the first track on their first album, and it is an invocation to Odin. And in the video, he goes into history and mythology and spirituality. And so there are parts of this, as I was watching it, it's like, oh, this would be really good to share on the podcast. And what I had mentioned in episode 184 was that he had recited a verse from Havamal, which is part of the Poetic Edda and the mythology for the Norse gods. And specifically, verse 139 related to the song that I played in episode 183, which was Hava Holu I, the Hall of Odin, from Vigundur. And reading the lyrics from that and hearing him talk about that on his video podcast just a few days after I had posted that episode, I thought that was a nice coincidence. And in this podcast, he goes into the mythology of Odin as well as how he wrote the song, which I will let him explain. But there's basically two sections of the song. And then it becomes this chant of various names for Odin. And that chant is just hypnotic and energetic and really, really powerful. I played that on episode 30, and I'll play a different version of it on this episode. But I did want to play some of the clips from Kai's video podcast that I found on the Heilung YouTube channel.
I am Kai Uwe Faust, singer and songwriter of Heilung. Alfather Haiti translates to "He is called All-Father," a reference to Odin, the chief deity in Norse mythology. Who is Odin? Odin, one of the most complex figures in Norse mythology, is often seen as the All-Father of the gods, associated with wisdom, war, death, and poetry. His earliest conceptual roots may trace back to Indo-European and Bronze Age sky or storm deities, showing parallels with figures like the Vedic Varuna or the Germanic Wodanas. By the time of the Roman Empire, Tacitus identified a Germanic god resembling Odin with Mercury, emphasizing his role as a psychopomp and knowledge seeker. He is the All-Father. He is the breath in the bone, the mind behind the eye, the name behind every mask.
And so that was kind of a nice introduction into Odin. And from there, he goes into a lot about the origin of runes and how that ties into Odin's sacrifice on the world tree Yggdrasil. So there's a lot of really cool information in that. But later he goes into how he put together the lyrics for the song.
Each name is rich in imagery and carries multiple layers of meaning. By chanting them, we weave the complex identity of Odin from individual threads. It's not one god, but a multitude contained within one being. The song Alfadir Haiti contains 32 names of Odin, the All-Father. Each name follows the ancient poetic device of stave rhyme, also known as stavrim. And each begins with a different rune sound from the younger Futhark, the 16 rune system used by the Norse from the 8th century onward. Each name is a key, each key a door into a god too vast for a single face.
So having listened to this song so many times, I knew that there were repeating sounds throughout the names, but I didn't realize that they were always in pairs and that they followed the order of the younger Futhark. So that would be the sound F, U, T, H, O, R, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to attempt my recitation of the names. Right after the line, Ok Alfadir Haiti, it goes into the couplets. Fimbul Thulur, Fjolnir, Uther, Ofragni, Thekur, Thedur, Onski, Ofnir, Rognir, Raudir, Grimnir, Gungnir, Helfreyr, Hungatur, Nolstapi, Nalvindir, Yolfuther, Jafnaur, Artrither, Alfather, Sigrani, Sigfather, and I think I'll stop there. Some of the other ones get hard to pronounce, but I think you get the drift. And so there are these couplets of words, and so I wanted to play a bit of Alfadir Haiti from the performance Lifa Jotengard, which was recorded at Red Rocks in October of 2021. Such an awesome performance. And so here is Heilung with Alfadir Haiti. just love the hypnotic recitation of the names, but what really gets to me is the energy as it builds and builds through each time they come through the names. Love it. The last few minutes of his podcast, he tied in some world religions and the commonality that they have, as well as some philosophies around their music. There were some really awesome lines in there, and so I wanted to play a clip or two from the very end.
In Eastern traditions, sacred naming is also a profound ritual. The Shurangama mantra in Mahayana Buddhism lists 108 names of the Buddha, just as Hindu texts chant the 108 names of Shiva. These names are not merely descriptors, they are invocations. Sound itself becomes a sacred key. To chant a name is not simply to describe. It is to call, to awaken, to become. In these cultures too, the word is more than language. It is spirit in vibration. Sound is a threshold. Through it, the finite touches the infinite. Whether a battle yell or a mantra, each call is a return to the source. Heilung's philosophy is not about reenacting history, but about invoking the spirit behind it. In Al-Fadirhaiti, every repetition of the names, every chant to the spear, is a step deeper into the ancient consciousness.
And now knowing that they took a break from their tours for a year and a half, their last live performance was in August of 2025. They've all had time to work on these other things. And since then, Kai has done this one as well as another episode on the song Marduk, which I've also played on the podcast. But yeah, I really love the way he tied in lots of different world religions and connections to a higher power. So love that. So from there, I wanted to move on to a few songs from some of the other projects. I had mentioned several times before that I'm a huge fan of the band Songleiker. And originally it was just Maria, Ingrid, and Christopher for their first album. In recording a new album, Maria and Ingrid connected with a few other musicians and recorded an album, and each song is so different from each other. I've already played the song Svarvi, and for this episode I wanted to focus on their second single that they put out, a song called Elden Melder, and this one was so different than Svarvi. I was really hoping that they would include Ulvetime on this album, but that seems to be a single, and I'm going to be asking them at some point if they could post that for streaming, because currently it's available on YouTube and Bandcamp, but not on any other streaming services. So I cannot include that in my playlist. The song Elden Melder came out just before the album did, and I really, really love this song. The lyrics are from an old Norwegian children's choosing song and means the fire declares. So the main three vocalists for this version of Songleiker would be Maria, Ingrid, and Kasia. But also on the song, someone who I'm going to be playing another clip from a little bit later is Myrker. She is playing the viola on this one. And there are a few other instruments on there. Most of the songs on the album have kind of a folky feel, and this one's got a little bit more of an up-tempo beat, and really, really caught me off guard, and love the song. And Christopher from Heilung also helped in the composition on this one. So anyway, without further ado, here is the song Elden Melder by Songleiker. Such a cool song. And like I mentioned, each of the other songs has a different feel. The first album, most of the songs kind of blended together, but this one, the songs are vastly different. This one just gives me a feeling of joy. Wasn't sure what to play next, but since I had just mentioned Mirker, she and Christopher had put together a song called Touch My Love and Die for the Dansk Melody Grand Prix 2026 in order to represent Denmark in this year's Eurovision contest. It was kind of a long shot to blend pop, metal, and folk music in such a way. I'm really bummed it didn't move on to be part of Eurovision, but she got to perform it live, and such an awesome performance. Anyway, this song has such a great hook and has been stuck in my head, and so I wanted to play Mirker with the song Touch My Love and Die. Awesome. Yeah, I love it. And it was really cool to see something that heavy performed on a stage with some of the other pop acts. I have a few other songs to play, and this one comes from one of Heilung's Hari warriors, Nadia. And I have played some of her previous music on episodes of the podcast. She put out a few singles under the moniker Nendinko, and this one is under the moniker of Pitch Witch. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but having an EDM song was not one of them. So she kind of combined some of the folk elements into it. But anyway, she released this and a few other songs under this moniker. Some of them sound more kind of ambient and movie soundtrack like, which have been really cool for meditation. But I love this one, and this is called Black Octopus ADHD. So cool. Really, really love that. So in the span of about a week, the Song Like It or album came out. Nadia put out Pitch Witch and Mirasetti. And I have previously on the podcast announced her name as Miraketi, but it is Mirasetti, put out a song called Ani Kuni. And I had not heard this before, but a Parisian electro pop duo called Polo and Pan had adapted this song into a dance track in 2021. but the original song is from a Native American Arapaho tribe, and this is a lament. So hearing the dance version gave it a completely different feel, and Mira wanted to give it back to the original lament sound. It is sad, but the way she puts together vocal arrangements is hauntingly beautiful, and I've fallen in love with this. So with the original context, it was part of a ghost dance, a spiritual movement intended to bring back ancestors in Buffalo. And the lyrics translated are, "Father, have mercy on me, because I'm dying of thirst. Everything is gone. I have nothing to eat." So it sounds kind of depressing, but like I mentioned, the way she puts together the vocal arrangement for this is just so beautiful. And so here is Mira Seti with her version of the Arapaho Nation ghost dance, Anakuni. Yeah, I really love that. And yes, and like I mentioned, hauntingly beautiful. So lastly, I wanted to get to one of the other vocalists. So both Mira Seti and Annika Shireen have been backup vocalists for Hailung's live performances. And Annika has also been part of a rock band called Shireen and has been putting out albums here and there. And just after Hailung finished touring, she was able to put the finishing touches on an EP and put out a series of videos. The song that I wanted to play here is called Discomfort. I'll get to that in a minute. As I started pulling these songs together, she just released a new track, and I'm probably going to play that on another episode. But yeah, that other song is called Cloud Weaver. But the song Discomfort is the closing track on the EP. And just, I love this. It's heavy. It's got such a great vibe and message. So I wanted to read a little bit here. And this song is definitely about empowerment. Don't ask me to love you less, only so that you can follow. Am I a danger zone to set free? Be with me, your liability. Your discomfort with my intensity is not my responsibility. And so, yeah, I love the music for this. I love the empowerment of the lyrics, and it's so cool and so refreshing to hear. And so I'm going to close out the music for this episode with Annika Shireen singing the song Discomfort. I just love that track. There's some other really cool songs on the EP, but this is my favorite. And such a great message too. So anyway, grateful to share all of those songs. And again, it was Heilung's decision to take a break from touring, that they were able to focus on other projects, and it gave me the inspiration to pull back and work on other projects rather than podcasting, which became the topic of this episode. Another way I could have gone about this episode with the announcement of the podcast website is progress rather than perfection. Just knowing so many things have gone wrong in me trying to get this set up. One of the things I just noticed this week, I wasn't getting a whole lot of emails for the past couple of weeks. Couldn't figure it out why. With the transfer of the domain, it closed off the email, and I just recently opened it up with our new host site. So again, I still have the feedback email as well as the Jason email, and I'll get to those in a second. But if you have been trying to get a hold of me or leave feedback for the podcast for the past couple of weeks, just understand that I completely dropped the ball on making sure that the email's transferred as well. So, if you did have any feedback, you can always reach us at feedback@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. I checked it out today. It is working under the new host. And if you want to be a guest, I'm going to be starting to schedule new recordings after taking so much time off. You can reach me at jason@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com, and I'd be happy to get back to you. I know we do have a backlog of people interested in being on the podcast, and so I'll start scheduling those as soon as I can. I talked to someone at the retreat who has the recording links for the last SAA and COSA speaker meeting, and I need to get a hold of him so I can put those out as episodes. So look forward to that. And with that, I think I'm going to close out this episode. I'll put in one last plug. Go check out sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. Let me know what you think. I thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as always, keep coming back. The views and opinions contained in the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the Bay Area Intergroup or the ISO of SAA.